Hey everybody, in this episode of Flicker Effect, John Wick Chapter 4 is finally in theaters. We're going to dig deep into it right now here on Flicker Effect, episode 437. Hey,
Hey, here we are again.
we are.
It feels like we just spoke to each
What?
other.
What you talking
Oh
about?
man. Oh, just the good old technical difficulties.
Nothing like
But
good
we're
deja
here,
vu.
and
Get us started.
we got a good one today because my most anticipated movie of 2023 is finally here. That is John Wick Chapter 4, and I obviously had that as my number one anticipated for 2023. But I don't know how you felt about anticipation wise with this movie. Before getting a chance to see it, were you going into it like super hyped up, or were you just kind of like, all right, let's see what this franchise has for me this go around? What were you kind of like going into it feeling like?
Uh, I've been pretty hyped up. I mean, I love the franchise. And then that combined with hearing all the buzz over the weekend from everyone seeing it and the reviews just before it dropped in theaters. No, my anticipation levels was pretty high to see the movie, and there was a chance, which just with my busy schedule, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to see it, but I really wanted to, especially like in a better format screen while it was still going to be in like Dolby Cinema or IMAX. I ended up seeing it in IMAX. Um, because you would think it would be in one of those formats for a while, but there's also a lot of movies still coming out, like Dungeons and Dragons, I think is this weekend, right? So
Yep.
yeah, I wanted to see it as soon as I could, so I did finally get to see it Monday night. So yes, I have now seen the film.
It's crazy is because I most of the time I think we're pretty much in agreement that typically speaking the way to go see any of the movies normally is seeing it in Dolby. So hearing you say that you saw it in IMAX, I don't was this had a specific way that it was shot, that it was formatted for IMAX as well. I don't
I
recall
don't think
seeing
so.
anything about that. Okay.
Um,
Uh,
I mean, I will say, like, by the time, so I did like buy tickets for the not buy. I have the AMC A list, but I reserve a seat for this movie like 3 or 4 different times because I kept having to change when I was going to see it. Like
mm,
originally, we were both going to see it, Michelle and I, like Friday night, and then we couldn't for various reasons,
mm,
and then it was like Monday night, and then Tuesday night, and then back to Monday night. But then, like because I was buying the tickets at semi last minute, or reserving my seat semi last minute. Um, the Dolby Cinema Theater, the only one that's really an option for me. Actually, I think it's the only one in town. This the seats that were even worth sitting in were all taken. Like that room was pretty much booked up.
yeah.
Even on like Tuesday night, I was like, wow, there's like no good seats in this theater, even on a Tuesday night. So yeah, I went with IMAX, which I'm glad I did. I mean, I don't know if it's an IMAX exclusive thing. I didn't know they were showing an Oppenheimer trailer in IMAX
Oh.
before that movie. That was pretty sweet.
You know what? I think they might have shown an Oppenheimer. Obviously, it wasn't a IMAX format trailer, but I do think that they showed an Oppenheimer trailer in front of John Wick because I got there maybe towards the end of all the trailers, and I could have sworn I saw something for Oppenheimer as I was going into the theater. So
Okay.
obviously not like I said specific to IMAX, but something, and it may be the one that was already out. I don't know if they had cut another trailer for that yet, but yeah. So I think for me, I just think that what this series has given us in the first three films has just been, I don't know, the action has been bar none some of the best action I've ever seen on film. So I had a lot of anticipation going into it. Obviously, being my number one that I was anticipating for the year, I had very high expectations going into it. And I think a lot of people maybe throughout the years have finally started to catch up on the series because I was looking at some numbers, and I'll actually go over that real quick. The if you had to guess, how much do you think the first John Wick movie made on its opening weekend?
Ooh, that's a good question. Uh, I'll go with 20 million.
Ooh, you would by Price is Right rules, you would be overbidding.
Uh,
It
and
actually
I kept in my
made
mind, by the way, I kept pushing it down. I was like, 35?
yeah,
No, 30. No,
yeah.
I'll go with 20.
That's
Okay.
all generous.
Yeah.
No, it made 14 million in its
Wow.
debut weekend. Chapter 2 opened with 30 million back in 2017. And Chapter 3 Parabellum opened with 56.8 million, but I did not realize how long it's been since the last John Wick movie because Parabellum came out in 2019. And I was like, it's been that long since that third
That
movie?
is kind of
Uh,
crazy. Because in one sense,
yeah.
it felt like. Because wait, when did the other. So Parabellum came out in 2019. When did the other two come out?
So John Wick, the first movie, came out in 2014, and then
Wow.
Chapter 2 came out in 2017.
Wow. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's been since
No,
2014. Not
it
at
doesn't.
all.
No, no, it doesn't.
Wow, that's crazy. Because
Almost a decade has passed by for these movies.
I was gonna say like with Parabellum, I think I had this feeling like, oh man, they're just pumping them out. But
Mm,
I mean, I guess 2 and 3 they kind of did, but 2 years apart. But
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
no, like I didn't realize it had been since 2019. I mean, again, the pandemic kind of ruins my
Yeah,
timeline. I think all of our timelines, but
yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah, no, I it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
No. So yeah, then this one, as I mentioned, it made 73.8 million or 73.5 million opening weekend. So I mean, it's steadily gone up over the length of the series. So it seems like a lot of people were anticipating and couldn't wait to see this movie. And the reviews had been very positive, so that just adds more fuel to you really being able to expect something crazy and out there. And it definitely delivers on the insanity in terms of how much action that there is and um, just the stunt choreography. Once again, this is Chad Stahelski directing, and he just does such a great job. And I find the way that they do a lot of the scenes in terms of the way it's shot, you get to see a lot of that action. So you know it's Keanu for the most part, except for some other parts that we'll talk about in spoilers. Which, by the way, for anyone watching, we're just going to give our general thoughts here and then get into spoilers right after. But yeah, it really seems like for me that Keanu gives his all when he does these movies. Minus in terms of, and it's all I guess through action because if you talk about how much he talks in the movie, then we're giving it a different scale. He doesn't say a lot, but he conveys a lot through action, and I really do think that this one is just at the most where you start to really kind of feel like you have to just give yourself over to this world because some of the things that happen in it you just know there's as the movies have progressed they've got less and less grounded and more into just almost pure superheroic kind of action, which is almost like how Fast and the Furious is at this point. But it's still a matter of how much, I guess, sort of visual acuity it has into the scenes, how much it looks accurate and realistic, and the way that they're able to maneuver. There's certain things in it that still keeps you feeling like it's grounded to a certain degree that keeps you in it without it being over the top. Over the top, it's pretty over the top, but is it quite over the top where it's just okay? Now they might as well have superpowers. Not yet, but it it gets pretty close to it, I would imagine. So, yeah, I really did have a great time watching this movie, and just was happy that this one still continued the legacy of the other three in terms of just giving you a pure old school action movie that you just have fun watching.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I mean, as always, I'm always nervous about like overhype and hearing kind of all the praise going into it. My expectations, I mean, were already high because it's a John Wick movie, but then they were kind of going through the roof slightly, and I'm like, oh man,
Mm.
I hope it's like, I hope my expectations aren't, way too high. But no, it was it as an it's an action film, and it's almost like, I wouldn't say a perfect action film. I don't know what a perfect action film would be, but it's damn good. Like, especially considering I was also going into it knowing, man, this is a 3 hour movie. And kind of like I said, the schedule's so busy, and it's like I'm trying to fit this in, and even though I'm like excited to see it, as part of me is like, oh man, it's gonna be 3 hours. Like on a work night, I gotta get to sleep as soon as this is over, and blah blah blah. And
Mm.
but it it was like 30 minutes into it, and I was like, I can already tell why this is going to be 33 hours. Sorry. Why this is going to
Right.
be 3 hours. And I'm totally fine with this. like,
Yeah.
just the action scenes, the action set pieces, they don't hold back at all. And they just let you like wallow in this amazing like choreography, and just, you want to enjoy this, right? This is what you want. You're just going to get as much as you want of this. And it doesn't feel like, for me, it doesn't feel like too much. None of the set pieces, even some of the longer ones, I was never like, okay, we can move on now. Like, no, I was like, dude, we can do this all day. I'm fine. like, like, yeah, no, it's like you said. I mean, Keanu doesn't have a lot of lines. I think somebody said, like, I forget how many lines he has. It's not much. I saw it somewhere on
Yeah.
Twitter. Somebody counted them, um, but or how many words anyway. And it's not much, but I mean, that's not what you're going to this movie for. And yeah, the movie lives in its own kind of somewhat ridiculous universe that, again, we talk about like suspending disbelief on certain things, and I think that's the kind of the trick a movie has to play, right? Sometimes like a movie is like, it'd be very easy for me to, if I didn't enjoy this movie, I'd be sitting here going, "Oh, well, this is so stupid, and that is just so stupid." But the movie walks this line of like, it's entertaining in a way that you don't care. Like, you buy into this universe, and it's totally fine. I mean, this isn't reality. like,
Right. Yeah.
and it's not trying to be reality. I mean, yeah, I haven't watched 1, 2, and 3 in a while. I really wanted to rewatch them before I saw 4, but again, busyness and schedule. Um, but I mean, I remember the first one the best, and yeah, relatively speaking, the first one is way more grounded than this film for sure.
Hmm.
But even so, I mean, even the first movie is still like not that grounded.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
this has always existed in a universe that, is not reality. And if you are watching these movies and going, well, this is just ridiculous, and he wouldn't be able to do that, and then I wouldn't say you're not getting the point. It's just, you're obviously not enjoying yourself. And then if you're not enjoying yourself, that's the kind of stuff that's going to stick out like a sore thumb. But definitely not the case at all for me. Like, I mean, maybe there's some nitpicky things I find a little silly or something, but I'd even have to sit here and think for a little bit to give an example. Like,
Mm.
no, the movie is pretty spectacular. The action in this, just the cinematography of the different action set pieces is just, it's so creative every time they make a new film. Like, the things they can figure out to make it feel kind of new and different, and things we have never seen before. The movie's pretty incredible. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's funny too because we didn't talk about a lot of the people that are in this movie, but uh, Hiroyuki Sanada
Mm.
and Donnie Yen, they're fantastic
Oh
in it
yeah.
as well. And it's just especially Donnie Yen what he's given. It's just absolutely fantastic. And I will say, and you know this by if you've seen the trailer, Donnie Yen plays a blind character
Mhm.
in the movie, and I would say that if you did want to nitpick some things, you might be able to there with some of the way that he does certain things, and it would be hard to say that that could be in any sort of way, grounded in reality. But you go
Yeah.
with it. You just go with it because it's the nature of this world that they've created and given us, and so you just kind of, you know, for some people, I think again it goes back to something I've sort of been echoing the last few weeks with some of the things we've been watching is that if you're having a good time and enjoying yourself, you typically will look over those things. But if you're not, those things stand out like a sore thumb and they become like a thread that you start picking at, and then the whole thing unravels. So,
Right.
yeah, I think that they do such a fantastic job with casting and every movie give you some memorable characters, and it's just this one's the same. It's just absolutely so great the way they do things, and yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say in a non-spoilery way, so I'm ready to get to spoilers if you are.
Yeah, I don't really either. Again, I mean, it's a lot of fun. If you are listening to this and you haven't seen this movie yet, and if you would all enjoyed the other three movies, I don't know what you're waiting on. I mean, this is just
Right.
it's. I don't want to say it's more of the same because that doesn't sound very exciting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it continues to build upon the stuff we've seen so far in a kind of fun and creative way. Like, I go see it. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if you're at all like me, where you're like, oh man, but it's so long. Like, I will say, I don't think you'll almost even notice how long the movie is.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, let's get
Spoilers.
into some spoiler stuff. Let me see. Where do I want to start? Okay. Well, I will just sort of piggyback onto what you were saying as far as the runtime. While I don't feel like it was too long, I do also feel like it could have been shorter, and I wouldn't have mind either. Um, which is interesting, just because uh, like I said, the way I never felt like it dragged. I wasn't looking at my watch or anything, but I could also see how you trim here and there, and you could cut out maybe a good 20 minutes, and you'd be fine still. Um, but I think the thing that I really wanted to say, well, before I say the thing I wanted to say, I did want to acknowledge that Lance Reddick had passed away, and this was his final film in the franchise because not only did he die in real life, but his character dies as well, which helps to set up a lot of the things that end up happening in the movie. And it was kind of surreal to see that after already knowing that he had passed away in real life, and then to then see him die in such a manner on screen. It was kind of like, a little eerie. And before my movie had started, right before within the opening credits and stuff, it did say in memorial to Lance Riddick, and so um, it was acknowledged that he had passed away while this movie was actually after it was made, but then put that in there as well for everyone can see it for everyone to see.
That's interesting you mentioned that because I'd heard somewhere that they were going to try to, I guess, tag that on to showings, because this just happened. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I saw that in my showing.
Oh, oh,
Um,
really?
no, I don't think so. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure I
It
would have
was right in the
noticed it.
beginning, so yeah. I'm sure you would have noticed it because it's right as logos and stuff or just ending or something like that, and then I
Hmm.
think that was the first thing you see, and then it gets into everything else or something. Can't remember which order it happened, but yeah, it was prominent for sure. Hmm. Well, yeah, I guess the big the big elephant in the room in terms of anything to talk about when it comes to spoilers is the ending and what we see happening there, and where you get that duel and John Wick gets the best of what is his name in the movie, or what is he called, the is not the concierge, the Marquis, played by Bill Skarsgård, which, I thought he played that role really well. He was menacing in a way without ever having to display any level of skill in terms of fighting or uh, combat or in any kind of way, but he was still very menacing and came across threatening when he needed to be. And it was one of those things where I felt like normally when I see him in something, I instantly associate him with it, the clown. And this, he was, I didn't even think about it once. It was just him being this character. And so I thought that was like nice for me to have him stand out in this character in a way that made him different than anything that I'd seen him in before, and especially with the accent. I think accent kind of helps that as well. But it's just to me fascinating that that was the direction that they ended up going into, because um, after he kills the Marquis, and then he's bleeding out and he's asking Winston to take him back home. Uh, I had the sense that they were going to kill him. He was going to die, I should say, but I wasn't for sure. And so, oddly enough, I felt in that moment, I felt good about the decision. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it felt right in some sort of way that that's how he ended up going out. And it wasn't like in a battle where he kind of got beat or something else. This one, it felt like, okay, this was the right way for him to go out. And then you get to that cutscene and you see Winston and uh, the king of the Bowery, Lawrence Fishburne's character,
Mm-hmm.
there at his gravesite, and I really do feel like even though what we're shown on screen shows that he's dead, I don't know that he's dead. Like I feel like if they wanted to, if they needed to, they could bring him back, because yeah, there's that whole saying where if you don't see the body, then you can't, verify that they're dead. And there's definitely that for sure. But also, it's just it just I wouldn't put it past them to have in that time he could have passed out. Winston got him some medical care, brought him back, and then just said, "Fake my death or whatever, and let me live in peace somewhere." And that could be the whole thing. But I don't know. How'd you take the ending, or were you surprised that they killed him off, and were you okay with how that ended?
I I definitely was not surprised. Um, kind of a mixture of I just somewhat anticipated that that might happen, and then nothing was spoiled for me before I saw the movie, but
Hmm.
I think I had seen a couple headlines like somewhere, like just scrolling through social media of like, about that John Wick emotional ending, I think, or something like that.
Uh,
And I mean, that could be interpreted a lot of ways, but him dying was definitely on that
yeah.
list of that's what that probably means. And I mean,
Right.
it didn't bother me that I saw that. I didn't feel, I wasn't immediately like, what the F? Like, it spoiled it,
Yeah.
or anything. Anyway, so I was not surprised that he died. And I will say, when it comes to the way they handle it, the shot of him falling over on the steps and then the graveyard scene. First, I'll say, with the idea that he is actually dead,
Hmm.
if indeed he is actually dead, I really like how they handled it. And what I mean is, after this, long action packed film and this kind of more kind of calm ending with the duel. It's not like a full on action thing going on. It's just a duel, which compared to everything we had been seeing was pretty subdued, right? And then he dies. I was glad that it didn't like linger on all of that kind of like a memorial kind of thing too much, you know, like you could get with a lot of films that it's the end of a franchise and our main character
Mm.
has died and let's have a big funeral and a lot of people like talking about him. And you know, I mean, it really just, he falls over, you know, then you see the graveyard scene and they talk a little bit and it's over. And I'm like, that's just kind of perfect. That's all we needed. Like,
Yeah.
not because the character of John Wick isn't important to all of us. It's just, I was immediately like, as soon as we went to that shot of the graveyard and you know, it's, you know, okay, he's definitely dead, definitely dead.
Right.
I was like, oh man, I really hope this isn't still drawn out for another 15 minutes, you know? Because
Mm.
now I'm like, okay, now this movie feels like it should be over, and then cool title card and it's over, and I'm like, perfect. That was great. And I'm fine with if he is actually dead the way that that's done. I'm good with it. Um, but is he actually dead? I mean, yeah, it's interestingly shot in a way where, like you said, you don't literally see the body going into the ground or anything like that, you know. So it is very possible, basically, almost exactly like you described it, like playing out. That I could see that that's what would happen um, if they make a John Wick 5, which you know we have since. It's funny, like I saw the movie Monday night. The
Mm-hmm.
movie ended. I always sit through the credits, which you know turns out there was an after credit scene anyway, so it
Mm-hmm.
worked out. But I always sit through the credits anyway, and I get my phone out and I'll start looking at stuff, and I see a Flickr effect tweet that you tweeted about like Hollywood Reporter article, I think, that hey, you know, now it turns out they're going to think about John Wick 5, and I'm like, yeah, that's hilarious. Like I literally the movie just ended and I'm reading this, and so we know that now apparently they're going to consider it. You know,
Yeah.
if they can think of a creative way, a way that makes sense to them to make another film with him. I mean, I'll go ahead and as to that, I hope they do not. I I very much have enjoyed these movies, and I'm not saying that Keanu doesn't have it in him to do another one. I believe that he does. With that said, Keanu is just getting older. He pulls it off in this movie. I am not at all saying that as I watched this, I was like, oh man, he's too old for this. Like, no, it's fine. There's certain shots of the way, like I think maybe that's just how he runs, but it does seem like
Mm.
he'll run around in a way. I'm like, hey, you kind of look like you're running around like an older guy now. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you're just if it's like go out with a bang, and you guys have made four great movies. I feel like you make another one. It's like again, he's just getting older. I don't know. Like, I'm all
You-
for still existing in this universe. I'm all for having the spinoff that we're gonna get. I think a film spinoff and also the TV show spinoff if those are
Mhm.
still happening.
Yeah,
Um, I'm all for that, but I don't know that I need a John Wick Chapter 5. With that said, I feel comfortable that if they do it, that they'll do it because they have a fantastic idea and they'll pull it
yeah. Hmm.
off. So it's like I'm torn, but if it were up to me, I would say I'm good. I don't just let it end here and let's be done. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think I'm right there with you for the most part. I wouldn't be mad if they did another one, but I'm
Right.
okay if this is it in terms of the John Wick series without doing a spin-off or anything. I mean, um, outside of doing a spin-off and the series, I'm okay if this actual part of John Wick within this universe ends with his this movie. Um, it I guess when you say that he's getting older, I don't know exactly how old Keanu is, but
It's like
what I think
60 now,
about
isn't he?
is
Like
that Donnie Yen and Hiroyuki are probably older than him, and they still look pretty good. So I guess there's ways in which he could still get by with another movie or two, depending on the time frame in which they did both of them, or just even one more. I don't know that you could wait another 4 years um,
he's apparently
to do
58.
another one. He's 58,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm guessing Donnie Yen and Hiroyuki are at least somewhere early 60s, maybe, if I had to guess. But that I would think that yeah, he could probably go on a little bit longer doing what he's doing. and choreographed in such a way by Chad that it would still look good and still be Keanu doing those things.
Donnie Yen is 59. Very close in
59.
age.
Wow, only, yeah. Wow, really right there with Keanu pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as we talk about Donnie Yen. If there is a spinoff outside of that, based on the way those end credits are, is as you see him going
Mm-hmm.
to finally go and see his daughter and be able to be with her, being out of the life, so to speak. Hiroyuki's daughter is approaching him, and she takes out the knife as she, I guess, flips it open or whatever, and then you hear it and see it, and then it cuts to black as she's approaching him. So it really leaves you in a place where, if they wanted to, we know that I think the ballerina movie comes out next year with Ana de Armas,
Mm.
and then we did mention that there's a Continental TV series, but now this also could be another branch in the franchise where you would have. I don't know if it would be Donnie Yen's character as the main lead, or if it would be Hiroyuki's daughter um, as the main lead to now, like, sort of take over the main part of the franchise or not. But either way, that looks like there would be some sort of resolution coming within that next movie that they decided to do, if they go in that direction. Because clearly, if unless they do a John Wick 5 and they can have that as part of that film and tie that in, then it would need its own movie if they're not going to continue with John Wick as its own franchise. So, yeah, there's definitely seeds that have been planted where we could go into different directions. And there was even the other guy. I don't recall his name either, but he was the one who had the dog, the German
Oh,
Shepherd.
yeah.
Yeah, like you don't know too much about his backstory. Would he call himself nobody? So
Yeah.
there's like stuff there as well where, okay, he could easily have something going on as a spinoff in some weird sort of way. Um, I don't think there's any hints one way or the other about it. Well, other than I don't think this is the case because I think we know enough about her. But Holly Berry's character, I think she had a kid, but I think it was maybe a daughter that she didn't see. So I don't. I was thinking, like, what if that could have been her kid, grown up as an
Oh,
assassin kind of person, kind of thing.
okay.
But yeah, or related somehow. But because of the dog connection kind of thing. So yeah, but obviously we don't know anything about him, so he's sort of a blank slate, and it could be interesting to see if they want to do something with that character. So
I,
there's
re-
obviously possibilities there.
I really need to see 2 and 3 again. I like
What
I
makes you say that?
well, like I said before, I wanted to watch them all again before
Yeah.
this, especially 2 and 3. I feel like I've seen one enough that like I remember one quite well,
Mm.
and I really enjoyed 2 and 3. But for some reason, like I'm not saying I forget them, like what happened. I do generally remember what happened, but there's some stuff like I'm hazy on now, and like the way this movie opens, I was a little like, wait, what's happening? Like this, they could have seen in the desert. I was like,
Yeah.
should I know who these people are? I don't remember. Um, and
Okay.
yeah, and then I don't think this is a direct kind of correlation. If there was one thing about the movie that I was a little like, yeah, this is a bit much. Like it was like the very beginning of the movie. I think it was that scene of Lawrence Fishburne's character showing up with the suit, the rope
Oh.
thing,
Uh huh.
and like he lights the fire and it creates this like it's like a baseball diamond, like not a baseball diamond, but like a it's like a home base
Yeah.
shaped kind of like thing. And I'm like, I mean, the movie starts off right with that, if I remember right, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little like, this is like a bit much. Like,
Hmm.
but then from then on, I
That's
was totally great.
funny.
Like, there was just something about like, why is he lighting this fire? And like, this is, come on, what is this? But
It's funny that that was the I get it. I don't even think I registered it. Or I should say, I don't think I gave it a second thought pass of actually him doing that in that scene. Because you know everything seems to be very theatrical with what they do in
Absolutely.
terms of, and so I didn't think too much about it. I think the thing for me that really got me sort of like was I don't know how many times Keanu Reeves can fall from at least a couple stories of a building
Oh, I
and
mean,
get up
yeah.
and walk away.
He falls like a few
And
stories and hits that van and
yeah.
like
And there's a couple of times that he felt like that, and I'm like, I don't know that you should be getting up at all after that, let alone um, just still being able to function in the manner you are right now. Because not only that, and just being hit by cars multiple times too, and taking that, it's like those suits are magical because they
oh
seem
yeah.
to be like Black Panther suit where they can absorb kinetic energy or something.
Oh yeah, I mean, as we said before, there's a lot about this movie that we
Yeah,
could go all
yeah,
day nitpicking that kind of stuff, but I just don't care. I mean,
yeah. See, there you go.
the
It's like
theatrics of that
you
very
enjoy
opening
it.
scene is just a little like, to me that's not a matter of, oh, that's just ridiculous, that could never happen. It was just theatrically, it was just kind of like, why is he doing this, why are we lighting this
Yeah,
fire, come on, like. But that kind of stuff, you're right. I mean, he's always like, especially toward the end of the movie, he's always holding the suit up like to cover his face,
yeah,
and I mean, bullets are hitting this suit, and it's like, it's not like the suit, even if they can stop the bullets, it's not like the suit even looks like it's reacting to the bullets. It's,
right.
I mean, yeah, we could go on and on and on, and you're absolutely right about him falling from stuff and just being able, yeah, he gets up and he's in a lot of pain, but he gets up and he walks away, and it's like,
Yeah,
I also just
I'm
don't
never sure.
care.
I think the only reason why I care is because you didn't have to write it that way. Like, why would you purposefully write a scene that way to where he does do stuff like that? Like,
Mm,
you could totally not do that.
right.
So that's what makes me sort of like, huh, why? Like, everything else is fine, but these things are like the ones that will stand out to me the most when it's stuff like that. But outside of that, yeah, there's like not much. Did you have like a favorite set piece scene or location where something happened?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I mean,
Ah,
I do. I mean, the stair set piece was pretty
that's what.
fun.
Yeah, that'd
Like,
be mine.
it was fun, but also, I mean, a lot of great action. But it was cool. Like, he's trying to get up these steps to get to this
Yeah,
final point of his journey here for the night. This is just his journey for the
yeah.
night, and like, he gets all the way up and then he's knocked all the way back down
All the way
and
down.
has to get back up there. I mean, sure, if there was another point where I was a little like, did you did you
Well,
have to
yeah,
time, like, well, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Like, we know he needs to be there by 6:03 is the time he's given
mm,
for sunrise, and he gets back down to the bottom, and Donnie Yen's character comes up, and it's like, yeah, it's 6 o'clock. He has 3 minutes to get up there.
yeah. 3 minutes.
Like, it obviously takes way more than 3 minutes to get up there. Like,
Right, right.
it's done in a way where I'm like, did we have to only give him 3 minutes? Like,
3 minutes. Yeah,
I
could have gave him
mean,
10.
because
Could have
you're
said it was
obviously making it take more than 3 minutes. Like,
right.
there was
Yeah,
something
no,
about
totally.
that bugged me a little bit, but again, that's nitpicky. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
care. But no, that set piece was pretty cool. I mean, the stuff in the, what is it, the Osaka Continental was,
Oh, uh huh.
I liked a lot. In that room with all the stuff, and he's fighting these guys that are like all armored, but,
Yeah.
and the nunchuck stuff was really, I liked that. That was good.
One of my favorite scenes, and it might rival the stair scene for me, or even possibly be better than the stair scene, is when he's in the hotel and they go to a top down view when he has that gun
Yes.
that just
Yep.
lights people on fire. Oh
Yeah.
my god,
No,
that
it's
is
so
so amazing. I felt like when I was watching that, I was like, the first thing I thought was, why is there not a John Wick video game? Like, it's
right.
like it could have easily been a level in a game where you're
Mm.
playing like that and you just see all the stuff that's happening. and it was just shot so well, and being able to see a good view from around corners that he hasn't gone around just yet, or just like different angles, the way it's shot. I was like, man, this is so good. It's so creative, and
Yeah.
just different ways to do the things that we typically would see in a movie, just a gunfight, but done differently. So, yeah, man, like you said, I don't know in terms of if they will do another movie, but I'm sure that if they do it, they're always going to be looking at ways that they can give us something that we haven't seen before.
I agree. I mean, if they do it, I'm not going to be pissed. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I feel like if they do it, especially the way he's quoted is, I think it's the film, the director, his quote about like if they do it, why they would do it
Mm.
seems like a genuine. We're not just going to do it for the money. We're not going to do it just because
Yeah.
Lionsgate is like banging on my door, going, "You have to make a fifth one." Like
Right.
it's like he's going to sit down with Keanu and they're going to basically just see like, do we have a great idea for another film? And if not, it seems like they'll let it go. But
Yeah, which is the way it should be, I
right.
think. And there's so many other places that they can go with it, so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. So I was looking at. Okay, so here, let me read off some stuff here. Um, so there's Atomic Blonde, um, the first John Wick, Deadpool 2, Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, and Bullet Train. Now, Chad, Chad Stahelski was always partnered up with David Leitch, who did movies as well. Of the two of them, who do you think did the movies I just mentioned?
Uh, I don't know. Uh,
Well,
wait, what were you
it
saying?
no, I'll just tell you. So it's actually David Leitch. He did all those movies, Bullet Train,
Oh, okay.
Atomic Blonde, and all that. And Chad has only done John Wick movies. So
Right.
it's kind of funny in that I would say if you put up David Leitch's movies up against Chad's, I like Chad's more than all the ones that David Leitch has done.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I say that only to say that I believe that he had also mentioned that they were going to take a little bit of a break from the John Wick series. So even if they were to do another one, it might be a little while. And I know that one of the, or that I believe his next project um, is actually a video game property. Had you heard about that?
No.
So he's going to be the director for Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I played. I
and I
didn't
have
play
not
all
played
the
that
way
game.
through the game, but I played a decent chunk of it.
Ah, okay.
It's good.
I have not played that game, but I know of the game and I
Hmm.
know how well it was received on PlayStation, and I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to see what he does with that. And
Yeah.
I think I remember reading a quote from him where he was saying, "This won't be the typical video game type of adaptation." Um, I didn't read the full quote, but the sense I got was that he was going to do something along the lines of maybe like The Last of Us, in the sense that he's not going to focus so much on the action itself. And again,
Hmm.
I'm just sort of telling you what I think he meant. I didn't read it, so I don't know for sure. But I think what he was meaning by that was that his is going to focus a lot on whatever the story is of Ghost of Tsushima. Is it
I
Tsushima
think
or
it's Tsushima.
Tsushima? Tsushima. So,
I think.
like, I guess there's politics involved and interfamily dynamics and stuff like that. So he wants that to be front and center,
Hmm.
and the action to sort of highlight all the other aspects of that. So, not just making it just an action fest, but make it the action matter when it needs to matter, I
Right.
guess. That's the sense I got from what the quote was. But yeah, either way, I'm just looking forward to seeing him do something. And it'll be nice to see him do something outside of the John Wick franchise and spread his wings a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hope that this isn't a case where he just makes great John Wick films,
Mm,
but then he tries to go beyond that, and it's just never works for
no.
him. I mean, I could see where that could be possible, but I doubt it. I think it'll be good to see him do something else, and yeah, I like you. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah. There was one other thing I had wanted to mention about this movie, but it's escaping me at the moment. Other than the fact that one of the things that I thought was interesting in how it was handled was the Continental, and I we knew about the series coming, and I couldn't remember when that series is supposed to take place. Although I did end up recently reading a little bit about when it takes place,
Okay.
but when it got blown up and what was it, deconsecrated, I
Mm.
was like, I wasn't expecting that. Like I figured it'd get shut down and that was that. But then you see the explosion happen. I'm like, okay. So what happens next? And so that really caught me off guard when they did that. But
Mm.
I thought that was pretty interesting. And then to now find out that the series is supposed to take place with, I guess, a young Winston as the manager of the
Oh,
or the um, what do they call them? Not manager. They're not managers, right? They're called something else. They
he's.
when they
I think
run the
he
hotel.
goes by as the manager, and then there's the
Okay, okay.
concierge played by.
Lance Reddick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's what I read. The series is supposed to take place where he's a
Hmm.
younger version of Winston
Yeah.
running the Continental.
I'll be honest. Like while watching the movie, I guess it's not that I forgot about the show. I just kind of did. I just really wasn't thinking about the
Mm,
show at all. So like,
yeah.
I didn't really like when the whole explosion of the hotel happened. It didn't really cross my mind. I'm like, oh wait, is the show taking place after or before? Like it's no, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I was surprised by them doing that to the hotel, and it was definitely another moment of like, yeah, suspending disbelief. Like we're downtown New York, and this building
Yeah.
just blows up, and there's a shot of
You're
them
right.
standing out there. And I mean, I'm pretty sure it was maybe it wasn't daylight. I can't remember, but
I think it was daylight. Yeah.
or
I'm
yeah, it
pretty
was like
sure it was daylight.
dusk or something. And I'm like, there's no one around. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but it's fine. I don't care. Like, but
Right.
yeah, that's just funny. Like, and they also exploded in such a way. It's not like the building fell. I mean, it
Yeah,
just
yeah, exactly. I thought it was going to fall, but the way it exploded
right.
and it was just kind of blown out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess then, with that being said, where would you rank this movie and all four? I know you said it's been a while since you've seen two and three, so maybe it'll be a little bit harder to rank these. But
Um, I would say that again, yes, like you just said, it's been a while. Two and three is going to be tough for me to place properly because it's been a while since I've seen them. Right, they're just not as ingrained in my head for some reason. Um,
so go
but
from the fourth to the number one spot.
I think I would say I'd probably put the second film at the four spot, the
Okay.
third film at the three spot.
Okay.
Um, I think I'd put this one, chapter four, the two spot, and I think I would just put the first film in the one spot. I
One
mean,
spot.
yeah,
Okay.
the action and everything in this film compared to the first film, like I wouldn't say night and day, but it's next level of like
Mm,
next multiple levels compared to that first
yeah.
movie. But there's still something about the first movie. It's kind of you're getting introduced to this world.
Yep.
Um, it feels like this complete story, a more complete story on its own. Um, it's a little more grounded, even though the ungroundedness of these other movies, as we have said multiple times now in this episode, do not bother me. But at the same time,
Mm,
it is kind of nice that the first movie is a little more grounded. It's a little more believable. um, but yeah, I think that's why I would probably put the first film at the number one spot. But this one is so good. Yeah, it would be like a close second. So that's
Hmm.
that's my four. How about you?
So mine would go in the fourth spot. I would put number two in the fourth spot as well. Number three for me would actually be this one. Um, Number two would be the first movie, and in the first spot would be number three.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I that's not a knock on this one at all by any means. It's just that for me, like for all the reasons you said for the first one, that's why I have it in my number two spot. And then what makes me put the number three movie over that one is just I felt like with that third one, every set piece for me was memorable. I know that you are a little hazy on some of the stuff that happens, but I just from beginning to end, I can just pretty much name every scene and sequence that happened. I mean, you have Holly Berry with the dogs, with them in attacking in the way that they do it. I just remember seeing that and just going wild in the theater, just because I'd never seen dogs used like that in that way in an action film. Even in the beginning, when John Wick is in the library and using books to beat up that tall NBA player, I forget his name. Um, that was wild, the horse scene, just kicking the guy in the face. There's so much in that movie. The knives when he's just throwing them, they're throwing them at each other, and just the way they do that, I just don't know how they did that in general, but it just looks so good and so realistic. Just everything about that from the beginning to the end. The fights with the fight, I guess, with some of the people that were in the raid movies, and for me, when you say you don't know if there's a perfect action film. For me, Raid 2 is still the perfect action film for me. But so seeing a couple of the guys that were in that movie, in the John Wick 3 movie, was like great as well. So that one is like, yeah, that one is it for me in terms of where the pinnacle is of the series. But like all the rest are like just sort of neck and neck with each other in terms of how much I enjoy them and how great they are.
Yeah, like if I rewatched the first three or just two and three like this
Yeah.
week, maybe there's a very good chance I could change my list. But that's the best I could do with my
Yeah.
current memory of those movies.
Right. Yeah. Well, you got anything else? Because I think I'm good. I think I talked about everything I really wanted to speak about with this movie, and I'm very happy that it's doing so well in the
Hmm.
box office and that it turned out as good as it did for being a fourth film in the franchise.
I don't think I have anything else. I kind of loved it. Like, I mean, it's early, but
Yeah.
is there a possibility it could end up on my top 10 list? It's possible for sure.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
um, yeah, no, it's quite good. Definitely go see it. But yeah, we got other movies coming up. I mean, I would not have guessed that Dungeons and Dragons would be getting the praise it's getting based on the
Mm,
trailers. Not that the trailers look bad. Like trailers look fun, but I mean the way it's kind of being discussed, I was like, oh wow, this seems really solid. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And sadly, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons in my life, so
never.
not once.
Really? Wow.
I even
That's
have a
surprising.
have a
That is
start. I can see it
surprising.
right there. I have a starter set right over there, and I've
Wow.
never. It was given to us, and I just sadly have never done it. I've
That
always wanted
is
to.
surprising. Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I remember playing as a kid, just once or twice as a kid, and then playing a little bit when I got older. And even back then, I still had fun with it. I didn't know what the heck I was doing back then when I was a kid playing it.
Mm.
But it was always fun, and I always give props to anybody that can be a dungeon master because that's just not in my skill set. I can never be a dungeon master.
Yeah.
I'm fun with playing the game, but I can never create the stuff and come up with all the different scenarios. So kudos to all you dungeon masters out there.
Right. Yeah. Every time I hear about how like a dungeon master works, or I've seen like, stuff in other movies or TV shows where
Mm.
somebody's playing D&D and I see what a DM is doing, I'm like, nah, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
I could not be that guy.
No, no,
Maybe after a
no.
few drinks, maybe, but no.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Very creative people.
Right.
Oh, that reminds me. So you said about the trailers and stuff. I was in the theater watching some movie. I forget what it was, and the trailer for Dungeons and Dragons came on, and I feel like I started looking around the theater, wondering if everyone was noticing what I was noticing, and I'm sure it was done tongue in cheek and within the spirit of which it was meant. But there was a old school movie voiceover for the trailer,
Oh, like
and it
the whole in a world kind
yeah,
of.
and it was yeah. They might have actually said in a world, and I think I
Huh.
can't remember for sure, um, but it was the same guy who does the Honest Trailers voice, and he was doing it. So that's why I was like,
Hmm.
oh, this must be like
So
specifically
weird.
done
It's
in
kind of a
this way
spoofy
because
kind
it
of
is.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. But I was like, is anyone else noticing this right now? That one, there's a voiceover for a movie that
Was
that we
this,
don't see typically.
and this was during the actual trailers or during like the pre-show kind of stuff with what's her name hosting that kind of stuff? You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking
yeah.
about?
No, I never get there in time for that
I didn't think
anymore.
so.
It's always during the trailers that I'm there, if at all, before the movie starts. Sometimes I try and time it right to where the Nicole Kidman's already done her thing and get in there. But uh, yeah,
Damn.
this was definitely a trailer. So I was like, huh. I meant to look for it again online to see if it was like an actual thing or if it was just sort of a movie theater kind of
Yeah,
exclusive type thing. But
I'd have to dig around too online. Now I'm curious to see if I can find it, but no, I haven't seen
yeah,
that.
yeah, I was like, wow, this is interesting because you just don't see it anymore. And with it being that guy's voice, because it's pretty recognizable, and I'm pretty sure it's the Honest Trailers guy that I'm thinking of, and
Hmm.
not any of the other movie spoof type things. But I'm pretty sure it was his voice and doing that. So I was like, huh, this is interesting, and it has to be done within like a spoof kind of in tongue in cheek in the spirit of this movie being sort of silly in and of itself. So it seemed like it was going hand in hand with that. But no one else seemed to notice in the theater.
I mean, really quick, I was trying to remember. I felt like this was one of the few times sitting through trailers there was even more than one trailer. I was like, oh wow, I haven't seen this trailer. Oh wow, I haven't seen this trailer. But the only one that comes to mind is I'd never seen the trailer for. I think it's, is it pronounced Sisu?
Mm-hmm.
Sisu.
Yep.
I hadn't seen that trailer before.
Me either.
That looked a lot of fun.
I had heard about it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I say fun. I
Our
don't. I
buddy
mean,
Lord.
but anyway, sorry.
No, I was just saying our buddy Lord had saw the John Wick during Thursday or Friday
Hmm.
because I saw him during WonderCon, and he had asked me had I seen the movie yet, and I hadn't seen it yet. And then he was talking about that trailer specifically. He was like, that had this tagline like the most fun you'll have killing Nazis or something like that. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh okay,
Something
I
like
think
that.
I'll
Yeah.
remember that trailer when I see it. And sure enough, when it comes on and it mentions like from the people who brought you John Wick, and you're
Right.
like, yeah, that seems about right based
Yeah.
on the way this action is.
No, it looks solid. It looks like the perfect thing you would see in front of a John Wick movie. I'm like, yep,
Yeah,
definitely appealing
yeah,
to the same audience as John Wick for sure.
yep.
But yeah, man, I've got nothing else unless you do. Uh,
Okay, good.
yeah, I think it's gonna wrap it up. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. If you want to support us, make sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube. You can leave any questions or comments down below. And also hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we go live or post any other videos in the future. You can also find us on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Flickr_effect. With that, I'm David Lott.
And I'm Bobby Jackson.
Thanks for listening and watching, everybody.